Hi guys and girls, I'm Obsidian and welcome back to Elite Dangerous. Today we have a whole bunch of new information on squadrons, how they're going to work, what you can do with them, and we've also got a bit of information on fleet carriers. But before we get into all of that, I'd like to briefly talk about Frontier's change in approach to feedback. Now the feedback is focused feedback, is what they're posting on their forums. Basically they're describing everything about a particular update, in this case squadrons, but later it will be carriers and then mining and then exploration. Now in the past, when they've made these requests, they've put the details out there and asked for player feedback, but they've literally done this months before an update, and in some cases you could probably count it in weeks, 5-6 weeks or whatever. Now with chapter 4 the situation is very different. There are up to 7 months available before the release, and this means Frontier have plenty of time to take feedback into account and make adjustments to their design. It really seems that they want to prevent repeating the mistakes of the past, mistakes they made with crime punishment for example. With this in mind then, I highly recommend that you head on over to the official forums, even if you've never been there before, even if you don't like forums. Register an account if needs be, leave your suggestions and leave any issues you have with the game, or in particular, leave any ideas that you have about squadrons or any issues you have with it. Now, I don't normally recommend this, but in this case, it really could affect the future development of the game, so it's well worth doing. All the links you need you can find in the video description below. So then, let's get on to the new information, and we'll start with squadron creation. Squadrons are there to support existing gameplay. What a squadron's all about, that's what we want to know. So yes, to support existing gameplay, that is to allow groups to better manage members' activities for what type of gameplay they already enjoy. Ultimately, the idea for squadrons then is to provide social and group management tools for the game. So yes, this is what other games call guilds. There will be some differences, but the general principle is the same. This means then that squadrons are not being designed around solo play or the lone commander. Whilst it will be possible to play in solo mode whilst also being a part of a squadron, the aim of squadrons is purely a multiplayer and group focused thing. That said, Frontier are looking into allowing cross-mode communication, meaning that players in solo can chat with players in open. More on squadron comms and a little later into the video. Now when a squadron is created, players will need to choose a unique name, and fortunately there will be a way to reserve and hopefully validate these names to prevent name sniping. Although it's really not clear if Frontier will also prevent me from creating a Smiling Dad crew, that's SDC. Either way, squadron names will be permanent and non-changeable. Creating squadrons is one thing, deleting them or closing them is totally another. Now systems will be put in place for certain edge cases. For example, if a squadron leader deletes their game account or goes inactive for a long period of time. Outside of the edge cases though, it will also be possible for the leader to nominate a new squadron leader if for some reason they want to move on or leave. So after the initial design proposals from Frontier, two things become very clear on the feedback forums. Firstly, players want a higher member cap than the initially proposed 250 members. Secondly, many players want the ability to join more than one squadron. Frontier addressed both of these issues, and let's start with squadron size first. Theoretically then, the minimum size for a squadron is 1 member, although certain functions for the squadron will of course require more members. One such feature will be fleet carriers, and these will require the squadron to have a minimum member count before they can be purchased. On the subject of maximum member numbers for a squadron, Frontier realised that many groups are keen for the current 250 member limit to be increased. Now it turns out that this is a technical issue, but there will likely be a way to increase it. But Frontier don't however want to jump into this too fast, not at least without first considering gameplay ramifications. Another option is to allow some type of connection between squadrons that would allow them to be linked, for example such as forming an alliance between squadrons. This again is something Frontier do want to look into before jumping on. However, it does remain an option, and it's quite possible that they will go for both of these options, that's increasing the membership count and allowing an alliance idea. However, it could be an either or case, or maybe none. It's something, for the moment at least, we're going to have to wait for more information on. Now on to the second big issue that people like to discuss, and that is the ability to join more than one squadron at a time. This isn't in the current design. Basically for now, the idea is that you'll only be able to join a single one. But this is something that Frontier are very keen on talking about. It's something they'd like to make a possibility. However, they do need to discuss it internally before they go ahead with it. Now, if players are allowed to join more than one squadron, if they do decide to go that way, it will always remain the case that no one can create more than one squadron. So whilst in this event it would be possible to be a leader of one squadron and a member of another, it wouldn't be possible to be a leader of two squadrons. But all of this really does serve to highlight the importance of the current forum feedback. Frontier are listening, they are willing to make changes, so like I say, do head on over there and get yourselves involved. Now, the fee for squadron creation still isn't set, but Frontier want to set it high enough to prevent players from randomly and rapidly creating squadrons on a whim, so basically preventing squadron creation spam. That said, they also want it to be low enough so that squadrons do not become gated away from new players or those with a low credit balance. Likewise, there won't be any rank requirements in order to create a squadron. You're basically bound to do it even if you're harmless. And whilst on the subject of money and credits, there won't be any financial benefits for squadron leaders, such as tax payments from the members. So that basically covers all the latest information we have on how squadrons are created. Let's move on to Squadron Functions. The squadron page will be accessible from the cockpit, and from here players will be able to join and create squadrons as well as manage them. Basically, this UI, this page, will be very similar in size to the Station Services menu. It will also contain the feed, which will include statistics, messages, carrier details and many other things. There will also be a new squadron chat window, and all communications through the squadron will take the place in the form of text. Now, while squadrons and therefore chat will not be cross-platform, that is, you won't be able to have a squadron joining across, or the same squadron, across Xbox, PlayStation and PC. You will, on the other hand, hopefully have the ability to chat across game modes. Unfortunately though, chat will not be persistent, so you won't be able to see chat history when you join a conversation. Now, early on I mentioned that squadrons are being designed to support existing gameplay. The implication here being that there will be no new game loops for squadrons. Do keep in mind though that mining and exploration updates are on the way. Also remember that it's likely fleet carriers will form a major aspect of squadron game focus. Now, that said, Frontier did mention the following points. There will be no squadron specific missions. Instancing will not be changed to allow it to support higher numbers, such as the 250 people in a squadron. The matchmaking system will take into account players who are in the same squadron, making it very likely that a player will get into the same instance as other players from the same squadron. Wings will not be changing, and it is possible that squadrons and factions will be able to be linked, or even squadrons and powers. However, this is something that Frontier are not discussing at the moment, and might come later with any discussions related to power play. Let's see how that goes. Now, another question that came up was how visible would each player be within a squadron. At the moment you can see other players within your wing, or in your friends list you can see where they are, but how will that work for squadrons? Will, for example, you be able to see all members within a squadron in open, or will you be able to see them across all game modes? But unfortunately, yet again, there's no clear information on this. What is certain though is that it will be possible to assign a wide range of permissions to all members. Currently there are 3 ranks: leader, officers and pilots, but it's possible that there will be more ranks at a later date. Now, it will be possible for each officer here to have different permissions, therefore allowing them to have different roles. Talking of customization then, it unfortunately won't be possible to customize a squadron with personalized logos, decals or paint jobs. However, a fleet carrier will be customizable, and there's not a lot of information out there on carriers just yet, but here is what we do know. Now, keep in mind that Frontier are not currently talking about fleet carriers in their feedback discussions at the moment. That's something that will be coming later in the month. But we do have some information. The fleet carrier is going to be a very large ship, comparable to mega ships. There's no information on what these will look like at the moment, however, although here's a funny image. But the hope is that they will have a unique look to them and be different to anything we have in the game so far. Now, as mentioned earlier, squadrons will have to reach a certain membership limit before the squadron has the ability to access or purchase a carrier. So that means a squadron of 1 will not be making the purchase regardless of whether or not they actually have enough credits. But without knowing precisely how that's going to work, there are some speculations out there that just maybe there will be a way around this. For example, a player in a squadron could perhaps get other people to temporarily join their squadron so that they can reach the number necessary to purchase a squadron. However, it is just as equally possible that a carrier may not function if the membership drops below a certain threshold. Again, at the moment there's no details either way. What we do know, however, is that a carrier will be capable of making hyperspace jumps. However, in order to do this, it will need to collect resources. What's particularly interesting about this, however, is that a jump can be made at any time. All that's required is to have enough resources to make the move. Now, non-squadron members will be able to jump into the same area as any carrier, so you'll be able to get into the instance of another squadron's carrier or an enemy carrier. However, you'll not be able to dock with it unless you're a member of that particular squadron. And finally, it's also possible to upgrade a carrier, and in my opinion it's likely that this is going to be quite a large focus for squadrons. Now, one other thing here is that anyone who flies near a carrier, and remember this can be people from the squadron that the carrier belongs to, or indeed it can be anyone else, but when you get up close to a carrier as you fly by, you will apparently visually be able to see what upgrades that carrier has. So then, that's it. At the moment, this is all we know about carriers, but there are more details and they will be coming later this month, I do believe. All that said, I'm personally very interested in hearing your feedback, so do let me know in the comments section. Personally, I think it's very early days for squadrons. We don't really know a whole lot about what they're going to do or what they're going to achieve. Yes, we know that they're going to be used for existing gameplay, but really, what does that mean? The carrier is likely going to be a huge focus of squadrons, so surely that means there's going to be gameplay around carriers. Either way, let me know what you think. I look forward to hearing from you. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.